Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Newseum's Walter and Leonore Annenberg Theater. I'm Jan Newharth, Chair and Chief Executive Officer of the Freedom Forum. We're thrilled to welcome you all here tonight for a very special evening, as we're joined by Don Lemon, host of CNN Tonight with Don Lemon. Don joins us to help us celebrate our exhibit, Rise Up, Stonewall, and the LGBTQ Rights Movement. The exhibit marks the 50th anniversary of the June 1969 police raid of the Stonewall Inn in New York and the protests that followed, which are considered to be the catalyst that inspired the modern gay liberation movement. Through powerful artifacts, images, and historic print publications, Rise Up explores the story of men and women who used their First Amendment rights to challenge injustice and fight mistreatment. Every day through our exhibits and programs, the Newseum strives to increase public understanding of the importance of a free press and the First Amendment. Visitors experience the story of news, the role of a free press in major events in history, and how the core freedoms of the First Amendment, religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition, apply to their lives. We look forward to hearing tonight from Don Lemon about his thoughts on the legacy of Stonewall, as well as media coverage of the gay rights movement from its early days to the present, and how media coverage has helped change public views about the LGBTQ community. We'll also hear from Don about his own life and career. Don joined CNN in 2006 and can be seen each weeknight at 10 p.m. on CNN Tonight with Don Lemon. He has also reported and anchored on the scene for CNN for many of the biggest breaking news stories over the past decade. Prior to CNN, Don was a co-anchor for NBC5 News in Chicago and also worked as a correspondent for NBC News, The Today Show, and NBC Nightly News. Our moderator tonight is the Newseum's own Sonia Gavankar, who is Director of Public Relations and serves as the face of the Newseum by hosting live interview programs and appearing in video installations and video blogs. In addition to her work at the Newseum, Sonia is an award-winning television personality who can be seen hosting programs on ABC and CBS affiliates, PBS, and even the Puppy Bowl. This is the final in a series of compelling programs related to Rise Up, which the Newseum has presented over the last 15 months. And I want to give special thanks to the Reef Team, TTR Sotheby's International Realty, for its generous support of the exhibit and this programming series. I also want to thank Wells Fargo for its generous support of the series and the exhibit, as well as give special recognition to Altria, Capital Pride Alliance, the Washington Blade, and our Stonewall Circle donors. And of course, welcome and thank you to our dedicated members for your continued support. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce Del Galloway, Vice President of Communications for Wells Fargo.
In his book, Transparent, published in 2011, Don Lemon dedicates his work to Tyler Clementi, a Rutgers University student who killed himself in the fall of 2009, shortly after his roommate streamed videos on the internet for the entire world to see of Tyler and a male friend having sex. Mortified, Clementi saw no other choice but to take his life. He was 18 years old. Lemon writes, "This book is dedicated in memory of Tyler Clementi and to the many young people just like him who believe they are alone. You are not." In a candid and yes, transparent voice, Lemon shares the story of his journey from his upbringing in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to his challenges and the success he's enjoyed throughout his career. In his book, Lemon leads with a candid self-observation. He writes, "The word no really bothers me. The surest way to get me to do something is to tell me I can't do it. Tell me no, and you've got a fight on your hands." The book features a poem by Shel Silverstein titled, "Listen to the Mustn'ts." It reads, "Listen to the mustn'ts, child. Listen to the don'ts. Listen to the shouldn'ts, the impossible, the won'ts. Listen to the never-haves. Then listen close to me. Anything can happen, child. Anything can be." Rules to live by, right? Good evening. It is with great pleasure, passion, and pride Wells Fargo partners with the Newseum to tell the story of Stonewall and the evolution of the LGBTQ movement these past 50 years. Two things Wells Fargo believes in strongly: diversity and inclusion. Here in our nation's capital, Wells Fargo has operated for more than 100 years, since 1914. And today we are recognized by the Washington Business Journal as the #1 corporate philanthropist, as is evidenced by our $1.6 billion commitment to underserved communities in DC through our program, Where We Live. Stonewall and the stories reflected in this exhibit are most important in the canon of American civil and equal rights. And tonight, our journey continues. It is big, important stuff. We at Wells Fargo are so glad you are here. We are honored to be a part of this extraordinary exhibit and these fascinating conversations. Enjoy the program.
Thank you, Del. It's now my pleasure to introduce Curtis T. Bell of the Curtis T. Bell Foundation.
Well, this is going to be an easy task after Del. That was an incredibly inspiring introduction. My allotment was 2 minutes, and I said, "No, CC, I just want a minute. I just want to express my sincere gratitude to you and to our speakers tonight for helping me and other people like me live a life of comfort and ease. It's opened doors which were not open when Rock Hudson died or when my license plate was taken down years ago. But there's a lot of love here tonight, and I appreciate your being here and all of our speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Curtis. And now it is my pleasure to welcome our moderator, Sonia Gavankar, and our special guest, Don Lemon.
Hello, friends. Have a seat, please. Wild applause.
I know, I can't see.
I know, this is
Hi, everybody.
So this is a good way of
Thanks
reminding
for getting
everybody.
me off work tonight.
Yeah, well, we have lots of things to cover, including the fact that you all are part of this conversation. We are going to take questions throughout the program. If you've been through one of my moderating sessions, you know I like to involve you as the other co-host, if you will. I guess that's like all of us are hosting this today. So this is a night off for you now.
I know.
Thanks to us.
I
You're
know.
welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. 2 hours a night, 5 days a week, talking about, you know. So I'll take it.
You'll
I'll
take
take it. So thank you. Thank you.
But you still have to kind of do work tonight, though, right?
I do,
You're
yeah,
going
of
to
course.
still have to tune in. And are you able to ever really unplug?
I
I mean, trying is one thing, but like really feeling like I'm
do.
getting
When I
distance.
go away, I do. I really unplug. And I try to do it on weekends. Like I will literally, like I don't wear my Apple Watch anymore because
That's good.
it buzzes and I want to look at it. So now I have like meditation beads so that I can and I'll put my phone in the back of a drawer and try to forget it.
That's good.
So, but usually if I go away on vacation, I can really zone out, and I do it on purpose. I need to.
But then on Monday, or whenever you wake up,
Yeah.
do you feel like you have to suddenly re-engage, or things have moved past whatever happened on the weekend that you don't even have to go back and refresh?
Well, I always want to be informed, but usually on Mondays, I try to ease back into it because I have a bit of an extended schedule on Monday because I work, my show is not on until 10 o'clock at night. So I work late. So Friday night, my weekend doesn't really start until Saturday morning.
Okay.
Most people's weekends start on a Friday night.
Yeah, or
My
Thursday.
weekend, yeah, on a Thursday. So I'm off work at midnight. So my weekend starts early, on a Saturday morning, and then I get to hang out a little bit longer and then go into work later. So I usually try to start plugging back in around 1, 2 o'clock. And then sometimes on a Monday morning, I'll wake up and turn the morning shows on just to have it on in bed and just sort of listen and fall asleep. And then that's about it. I don't watch news all day until it's time for me to start plugging back in.
So we are allowed to do the same then? It's
Yeah.
okay for us to kind of unplug, or as long as we're always tuned into CNN at
No,
some
no,
point?
no. I mean, yes, I would love for you to be tuned into CNN, but I actually recommend it. And I have this saying, I always say that I think people should be informed, but they don't have to be inundated. So I think that you should, of course, watch CNN, but you should watch other organizations, other networks, and read as much as possible, because I think that you've got to be educated, you have to be informed, but you don't have to be inundated. Like, you don't have to, every single alert. I'm thinking of turning the alerts off on my phone because it's too much sometimes.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Well, so that brings up a question about breaking news.
You can applaud. It's a lot, especially in this administration, because the news cycle moves so quickly. It used to be when people would say, oh, it's a 24-hour news cycle. It's not even a 24-hour news cycle now. It's like a 24-minute news cycle.
So how do you deal with that, but still able to cover things after that weekend is over? How do you re-engage, and how do you recommend that we stay up to date, but also stay human and informed of what the other viewpoints are? Because it's easy to say, I'm going to disengage, but then we're not really.
So for me, well, I mean, I've told you how I do it. I have to. It's my job, right? I have to always be re-engage and submerge, right? Deep emergence. It's not therapy, but whatever you want to call it. But I would say whatever works for you. I meet a lot of people who have no idea actually what's going on in the news, and I say, oh my gosh, that must be so nice.
Where is that place?
Yeah, what is that? What did Tina Fey used to say in
I want to go to there.
I want to go to there. But I would say whatever works for you. But I would say that I would probably pick times during the day, if I didn't do what I did, to tune in. And you can do what you want. Like, all of the alerts, like every time there's an alert on my phone, it's anxiety, because I don't know what it's going to be about, if it's going to change my schedule, if it's going to be about me, whatever, who knows? Like, you never know in the news cycle. The other night, the president tweeted something about me, and I had no idea. And someone said, oh, oh my gosh, he's at it again. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he says, well, did you see his Twitter? I'm like, no, I don't follow him anymore. Like, what's going on? It's like he's tweeting about, and I went, oh, so what's new, right?
Right.
So, but I mean, there's that little bit of, like, what happened? What did he say? What's going to happen this time? So I would say that, pick your times, like schedule it, like set an alert, or just know, like, at 2 o'clock every afternoon, I'm going to tune in to the news. But because I feel right now, people are really overwhelmed. Do you feel overwhelmed? Yeah. So you have to figure, it's like, I'm starting, I was telling you in the back, I'm starting transcendental meditation because it's too much.
Well, and now tonight, we're going to have a debate that we're all going to tune into.
Yeah.
And where you have 24 people running for the
10
highest.
on the stage, but 24
people. Yeah, but 24
running.
people. How in the world do we stay well informed and participate in this democracy when it's like, I mean, I don't know anything about sports ball, but like that's like a team. That's like a football team, I think, of people.
I don't know how the average person honestly keeps up with it, and I can't really give advice on that, because sometimes it's confusing to me sometimes. During the Russia investigation, there were so many nuances to the story that you'd have to, like, okay, what is this person's name? It was like a scorecard.
Yeah.
You'd have to keep a scorecard. And now, with the folks who are running, it's the same thing. What are their policies on this? What's their stand on this? Where are they from? And during the debate that I hosted, one of the debates, you'd have to, some of them were congressmen, some of them were mayors, some of them were senators, some of them, whatever they are, and some of them were both or two or three at one point in their career. And so what do you call them? So here I am, the person who covers them every single day, and I'm like, Mayor, I'm Governor. I can't imagine what the average person at home feels like.
Right.
So I think right now that people aren't quite as tuned in as they will be when it gets closer to the election.
Right.
So this senator, this congressman, this governor, this whatever, this representative, they'll weed themselves out, and when there are two or three or maybe four people on the stage, people will engage and say, okay, here we go. Now we've got, the candidates. But I would say you should read, but I don't think that at this point in the game that you have to be that involved. The finals aren't until next year. So you have some time.
So we have some time.
You have some time. You can just sort of think about it. It's like osmosis. You're like, oh, I got to study for the bar exam, but then you're like, it's a year away, so I'm good. And then when you start getting close, you're like, oh my gosh. So yeah, you have some time.
But we have these great town halls that you've been doing. You did one on climate just a couple of
did.
weeks ago, and at that you announced that you're going to be doing one on LGBTQ
Yes.
issues, which is very exciting, especially as we're talking about the 50th anniversary of Stonewall, and of course why you're here talking about to talk about our Rise Up exhibit as well and see that. But how does it feel that CNN says, yes, this is an issue that's of importance, that we're going to dedicate a town hall, and to then have the candidates clamor to be part of it? How does that feel?
It's why I work there. It is really why I work there. And as people can say fake news and all that. CNN is doing great. We're doing very well. Our ratings are good. Our engagement is great. And I work for a company, and not just because I work there, which is fantastic. I didn't have to go to management and say, hey, you know what, why don't we do a town hall on LGBTQ? They came to me and said, we're doing a town hall on LGBTQ issues, and we'd like you to be involved, and we want you to announce it.
That's great.
Right?
So then it reaffirms why.
So it
you're there, like you
reaffirms
said.
why I work there, and it reaffirms why you should watch CNN. Because we really, no, I'm completely
it's true.
serious.
Yeah.
Because they really care. My boss really cares.
Right.
And it's not about, for the climate change, town hall. It's not about, how many people are going to watch and what are the ratings going to be. No, it's the right thing to do. And so for the LG, it's not how many people is going to watch if it's a niche audience and, there's only 10 to 12% of the country that's LGBTQ or what have you. No, it's not about that. It is the right thing to do. And it's the same thing that with the way we're covering this administration. This is not about right versus left. It's about truth versus falsity, right? Facts versus alternative facts.
Right.
And so what our management tells us to do is do the right thing, report the truth. Don't change anything, just report the truth. And sometimes people will say, well, your network, or you seem anti-Trump. No, we're anti-falsity.
Yeah.
Right? And so it can seem that we are, anti this president when the truth isn't on your side. So, yeah.
So you talked about being proud to work for an organization where you don't have to be pitching these stories. You've had that experience.
No, but if I have to pitch them, by the way, I am quite comfortable doing it, and people are receptive.
That's why you're good at your job.
And people are receptive to it.
Right.
Yeah, sorry.
But you've had to pitch those things that you really care about, and it's been shot down. Tell us, for those people who aren't in the news meetings in the morning and your process, how do you decide the stories that you want to be seen? And do they often differ from what management wants? Not necessarily now at CNN, but just through your career, and if there's an evolution in that.
Oh my gosh, it's a huge evolution. I'm glad you asked that question. It's a huge evolution because you really have to, there was a time, and not just at CNN, but in most news organizations, you really had to push to get stories about LGBTQ, about African Americans, even stories that related to women and on any minority group, any underserved group in our country. It was really tough, but now it is not. It's different for me because I have a show that has my name on it and I have a platform, and if I say, I want this on the show, chances are it's going to get on unless there's something happening, unless there's some big breaking news, there's a mass shooting or something that is just consuming the news cycle, I will get it on. And if I don't get it on, then I'll get it on later. So for me, it's a bit different, and I don't have to go all the way up the food chain to pitch it. I just go to my producer. Like today, there was I don't know if you guys saw the New York Times headline about New York City and conversion therapy, making it legal. And I had my phone. I said, all I did was, this is for me, which is the great thing about working at CNN. I said,
Is this an email or a tweet you're going to
no,
read?
this is just a text.
Or text. This
New
is a
York,
text?
New York is legalizing gay conversion therapy. Here's why. I just sent it to my EP, and she said, wow, interesting story. Do you want us to ask for the city council speaker for tomorrow night? And I said, yes, that's it. It's just that easy for me. So, but it's not that easy for everyone, and it wasn't always that easy. So it's important to have news organizations that are receptive and open to stories that are important for the LGBTQ community, for diverse communities. It's also important to have diverse talent on the air and who are in positions of power and authority to be able to tell those stories well, like me. I think I can tell a story about being LGBTQ well. And someone who has the power to be able to get it on the air. And so that has really changed. I used to have to fight for those stories. I remember before I came out, I would say, well, maybe we should report on this. And I'd be nervous about it. And now I'm just like, this is a great story.
But you were out privately, I guess.
Of course.
Yeah, right.
Like
So
most people. Yeah, like most people then. I mean,
your friends and your colleagues knew.
Yeah.
But you weren't. It wasn't part of your bio on the
Right.
website.
So I came
Not
out-
that it is now, probably, but again,
well, I wouldn't mind if it
Well,
was,
it's your-
right?
yeah, your fiancé.
Right.
Everybody
There will be a
mentions-
day
yeah.
when it doesn't matter, but I still think it matters for visibility-wise.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
I still
So-
think it matters.
So when you were not out, you're kind of like you are a double minority. One is very visible and one
Right.
is not.
Right.
So how did you earlier in your career manage that? And then was there a moment where you thought, no, this is a moment where I can really bring a voice to a group and a group of stories that need to be told?
So I am a double minority, and it used to weigh on me more heavily than it does now. Now I don't really care.
Yeah.
I don't.
Which is a great feeling.
It's a great.
Yeah.
I don't. But that's not to say it's not. That's not to say it's easy.
Right.
It's still not easy, right? Because when you don't, when the racists aren't coming for you, then the homophobes are, and then sometimes or most times they come all together, right? They find some sort of way to come after you. But it doesn't I don't let those things bother me anymore. I mean, listen, I'm human. Sometimes I'm like it gets I'm down for a little bit, but I'm a soldier. I keep going. But there was a point when you didn't want to sort of expose yourself that way, and even though you're in the background fighting, you're like, how much do I fight for this? But the beginning of your question, I came out publicly in 2011, which wasn't that long ago, but then it was like a really long time ago.
Right.
And I think that think about just over the past couple of years, how far we've come when it comes to same-sex marriage and it comes to issues concerning the LGBTQ community.
Absolutely.
It was something that just, we weren't that visible, at least we weren't out in 2011.
Right.
People just didn't really come out that, there was Rachel and I think Thomas Roberts, and that was it. And then here comes Don Lemon, right? So I think now it's an evolution, and I think that it feels like we are light years ahead of where we were just 5 or 10 years ago, but we still have don't get me wrong, I know it's a cliche, a long way to go. People are still very ignorant about our community, and it's frustrating, but it's incumbent upon us to educate them.
Absolutely.
Or for people like me, I should say.
Again, we want to remind you that there are microphones. There's one, so the other one must be over there. So if you want to head that way, if you're standing in front of a microphone, I will go to your question. But otherwise, it's me and Don. Hold on.
Right.
So-
And questions.
And questions. Oh, see, now they're all getting up. So let's talk
No,
about.
people will do like long soliloquies, and I'll say, "What is your question?"
And what is your
So
question?
I really
Oh,
want to
yeah,
answer
I
your
will
question.
ask. I will say, and your question is. So let's talk a little bit about Stonewall 50 years ago. Tell
Yeah.
me about when you first heard about Stonewall and kind of your moment of realizing about that event.
So I wasn't. I shouldn't say that I was aware of Stonewall, like actually educated about it, but in my being, I was always Stonewall because I was like, I heard Judy Garland, I'm like, I love her, right? I was like, God, that voice, and oh my gosh, she's so sad, and then she's like, what is happening with her? But obviously, she was a big part of Stonewall, her death, and some people say that it led to people were frustrated. So I learned about Stonewall in college when I started listening to Judy Garland, reading James Baldwin. Seriously, I'm really gay. Like I can sing the whole Judy Garland at Carnegie Hall, like word for word. Every movie, every Betty Davis movie, I can do every line from The Women. The 1939 version with Joan Crawford and Norma Shearer.
I love it.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, I'm that guy.
Jungle Red.
Yeah, John. It's taken me 2 years to grow claws, mother. Jungle Red. That's what she said. Do you guys know the story? Mrs. Stephen Haynes, her husband has an affair with Joan Crawford, and she goes to the salon and gets her nails done. And a salon technician tells her that her husband is having an affair with this woman who works at a department store. Yeah. So anyways, there you go. So, and then the whole thing
I feel
plays
like
out.
I want to ask you, like,
So,
and then you decided, like, well, maybe I'm gay. No, I'm sure you knew well before
So then,
that. But that was how you you were in New York that summer in college.
No, I was in Louisiana going to
Okay.
LSU, and knowing that I was gay. Go Tigers! No, did you watch the game the other weekend? Oh, yeah. Did you watch the game? It was good. So going to college and then trying to figure out what was going on, and then I had like sort of my first boyfriend, my first experience, and he turned me on to James Baldwin, and I read Giovanni's Room, and then I started reading everything I could about the gay community and gay life and gay history, and then I learned about Stonewall and the Stonewall riots, and then lo and behold, some years later, I'm a Stonewall ambassador.
What does it mean to be a Stonewall ambassador?
Well, basically, it means that you get good seats for for the
For World
gay
Pride,
for
yeah.
World Pride. But I host events. I do events like this for them. Anytime they call me up, I'll try to help them raise funds or awareness for something. Like I can't do it myself, but if they're in a fundraiser or something, I'll show up and do. But basically, it's just about being visible and also making young people aware of the significance of Stonewall.
So when you were aspiring to be a journalist, it was maybe before when there were only 3 network news anchors on. That's when I was inspired to be a journalist
Right.
myself. So it was like 3 white guys. And I was like, "Ooh,
Yeah.
is there like I never took that as like, oh, there's no place for me. But did you
Yeah.
have that feeling of like, well, I mean, I turned to my parents and said I can do that job better, but maybe.
Well, I thought the same thing that you did, except there were 2 words that followed. Right now.
Ah.
Right. There's no place for me right now. And then I knew I was going to find a place. I've never been one to listen. I've gone through a lot in my life. I've always been the underdog. People have always underestimated me, which may have been, I think, a positive. Right. When people underestimate you, you like keep going, and you always overperform. Right, or overproduce because they think that they don't expect as much of you. But I always thought that I would make it as a journalist, but I wasn't sure if other people would understand. I always knew that I was comfortable on camera and that I'm personable because I love people.
Right.
Right. So but I always thought that there would be room for me, and I always thought that I would be like the host of the Today Show. Right. That sort of thing. I never thought like I'd be that, even though I would imitate Peter Jennings and Bryant Gumbel.
Yeah.
I always thought that I'd be the host. And by the way, which now Bryant Gumbel's like my friend, which is weird.
Oh, that's
I'm like,
exciting. Yeah.
every time I like get a text from him or I see him somewhere, I'm like, you're Bryant Gumbel.
Right. Yeah.
And we're friends. It's so weird. So now but I always persisted. I always tell people that no one has to believe in your dream but you. And there were points in my career when no one believed in my dream. I was the only one. And I always surprised the people, even the people who didn't believe in my dream. There was always some other place, or I would always figure out a way to make them see me, right? To make myself useful and effective. And so that has always worked for me. And that is my advice to young journalists. Don't worry if no one believes in you but you. You don't have to be an advocate for the gay community, the black community, the whatever community, the Hispanic community, whatever. I get people always ask me, how do I make it as a strong black woman in this? How do I make it as a strong gay man? And I say, don't worry about that. Let me, the old people, worry about that. You worry about being excellent. And just by your presence as a gay person who is excelling in this business, who's excellent, then you will make it and you will show people, and then you can get up there, as my mom says, and show your ass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, hey, here I am.
Yeah.
Boom.
Right. You may remember me from such things as being amazing.
Yes.
And also.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's go to our first question. Go ahead.
Don Lemon, is it working?
Yes, we can hear you. How are you?
I'm a night person, and you have made a total addict of watching you and your interface with
Chris.
Chris
Yeah.
Cuomo. God
Yeah, you
love
guys-
It's wonderful.
It's the
And
bromance
Anderson
that
Cooper.
everybody, it's the
And
news
Anderson
bromance
Cooper.
of the century, right?
I just want to express to you what you've just said is the essence of being a human being and working with other people, and you do it beautifully. And I just want to thank you. You make my evenings wonderful.
Oh, wow,
I
thank
watch
you.
I'm an addict.
What's
I'm
your
an
name?
addict to your show. I love you.
What's your name?
Kurt Bell.
Kurt, thank you so much.
Oh, get out of here.
Come here. Ah. Thank you very much.
So wonderful.
I appreciate it. You smell good. What are you wearing? Look, watch your step. Boy, I used to be able to bounce up faster than that.
It's your day off. It's your day off. You took that long, harrowing flight here. Another question over here.
Okay. Name is Dave Onsbach, member of
Hi,
Public.
Dave.
I know that there, is a desire for an Employment Non-Discrimination Act, banning discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. And there's conservatives that also want to see an act banning discrimination against workers based on the worker's choice to join or support or not join or support a union. Neither has the rights to be protected from discrimination in this country. And I've thought about those who want to see end up pass, whether it's a possibility to try to ally themselves with those who want to see, the right to work, banning discrimination against workers based on the union status. See if you can combine the two, consider them one and the same, and that would that make the chances of passing ENDA greater? That if you were to do that.
Yeah. So I understand your question is if you combine the two, you said if you combine the two, does it make it the chances of it passing more likely than
Exactly.
that? So I would listen. I'm not a politician. As a thinking, logical person, I would think so, and I think there's power in numbers, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's a great idea, and I think that you should. If I happen to be hosting or doing a story on that or hosting a group on that, I will certainly raise that possibility. That question is a possibility to them, or that possibility is a question to them. But I think that you should speak to your lawmakers. That's a very good point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's nice to meet you.
I know that you said that your mother watches you every night,
Religiously, I
and
know.
then sometimes watches the rerun. Yeah.
Usually she watches a rerun.
Yeah.
Because she falls asleep sometimes on the show.
Mid-show.
And then, but she'll fall where she'll DVR and then she'll pick up where she followed, and then she'll fall back asleep and then she'll wake up again and watch it. Yeah.
So does she send you story ideas?
She does.
Yeah.
And I've used them. But the other day she sent me a story idea for Tyler Perry, was helping with the hurricane in the Bahamas, and she just sent me like a link of it, and I said, "Oh, Mom, that's I know that I saw it in the emails at work or whatever. It's been reported." She goes, "Well, I watch CNN all day. I have not seen it." And I said, "Okay."
She's like a Nielsen family. She's
Yes.
like I watched it. I did
She
not
did.
see it.
And
Yeah.
so I texted Tyler and I said, "Tyler, do you
Mom
want to
said.
come on to talk about whatever?" And he goes, "Don, I don't want to come on to talk about it. That's not why I did it. I'm not doing it for publicity." And I said, "Well, I had to ask, and you know why?" And he goes, "Your mom?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Tell your mom I love her, but no."
But no. What kind of questions do you get from folks that you see in the airport or as you're traveling? Because I'm sure people.
Sonny,
It's
you
all
know.
like
It's Trump.
Trump. Right, yeah. But is it like, what you should do?
Yes.
It's that. And it's
Yes.
like, you should poke the beast via Twitter. And is that kind of what they're saying? Or they're like,
People always want me to fight back if someone attacks me. And I'm like, I just don't believe in giving things oxygen for that sort of thing. But most of the time, yeah.
yeah. And you also, you're huge.
Right? You just
Yeah,
go. You
yeah,
have to
you
do
just-
that.
yeah, move
But most of the time, it's about it's interestingly enough, people will say, "I love you. I don't agree with you politically," and I'm like, "You don't really know what my politics are. You think you do because you watch me. But I love you. Can I get a hug?" Like from Trump supporters,
Oh.
right? And from conservatives. But like old school conservatives are like, "I love you. I watch you every night," right? But
Yeah.
like the new sort of are like, "Yeah, I don't really agree with you, but you're a cool guy, whatever." And then some of them, rarely, occasionally, will get some like, someone will say something untoward, and you just ignore it. But most of the time, it's like, what is going on in this country? Can you save us? Oh my gosh, thank you. All right, but the biggest thing is every single day, thank you for doing what you're doing. I've never heard it so much. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you, we need you, we need you. You're like keeping the Republic alive. Like, thank you, you're gonna save the Republic. And I'm like, well, that's a big job.
Yeah.
So I remember, this isn't in an airport or people coming up to me, but at the last White House correspondence, last White House Christmas party, with the Obamas, went in and I don't know if you've gone, but you go and they just
have
stand.
not gone,
You stand.
Don.
It's just,
Don, I have not been invited to that, but
but they just stand in front of the fireplace and they bring
Yeah,
people.
right,
Well,
yeah.
hundreds
Yeah,
of
yeah.
people go. Right? So
I've seen other people's pictures on
they just
Instagram.
stand and then literally it's less than 30 seconds. They walk in and then the Obamas go, or whoever is there, and like, "Oh, it's nice to see you. Merry Christmas, blah, 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 blah." And then they say, "Smile, cheese, boom," and then you walk away.
Right.
So the last one I walked in, the first lady said, "Now go out and save the country or the world." And I said,
Yes, ma'am.
"Yes, yes." I was like, "Okay." And that was it. So I get it all, but mostly it's positive.
Good. Well, you deserve that. Next question.
Hi, Don.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great.
What's your name?
My name is Jusu.
Nice to meet you.
My question is on intersectionality, and I'm thinking in a community of people, equal rights should not be an issue. It should be a non-issue.
Right.
Usually the way we tackle this is to say, let's teach and let's appeal to people's moral compasses, and I think it's not really a debate that should make people who, minorities be teachers or spiritual advisors. Because deep down, I think it's a human issue, and I think in some ways there are discretion as to what, people who have been chosen to be humans and others who you can consider human beings. So my question to you is, what ways would you say we start mobilizing as a people, as a community, to stop incentivizing intolerance and bigotry? Whether that is through our workspaces or through government action.
Wow. That's a big question. Thank you. Okay, so the first part, I'll remember. The second part is, what way can we not incentivize intolerance? The first part, when you talked about teaching people, I know it's frustrating, but I feel no one is more equipped to explain to someone what it's like to be a gay black man than me. No one is more equipped to teach someone what it's like to be a trans woman than my friend Laverne. I'm just using names, but so I think in a way we should be teachers, and we should be open to being teachers, because otherwise people don't learn, and we cannot be so sensitive as to say, stop asking those questions, because the moment we do that, then we push people away. And I know it's frustrating, and we get it all the time. I always tell people, look, I'm not the African American authority. It gets frustrating sometimes, but in a way I am. In a way you are, or you're from Africa.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're the African authority, but in a way you are the African authority. So you should take that with pride, and you should meet people where they are, and teach them, unless they say they're doing something that's really silly and really stupid. So I think that we owe it to humanity, even the person that you may disagree with or may not understand you, that person is still a human being. And so meet them where they are and try and do that. Be more curious and less judgmental. The other thing is, I don't know, I'm not sure what you mean by incentivizing intolerance. I don't know. I don't feel that I do that, and I don't feel like the community at large incentivizes intolerance. You mean the gay community?
Well,
the LGBTQ community incentivizes intolerance?
So take the instance you mentioned earlier about New York State, legalizing conversion therapy. I think this is just giving people free pass and creating a moral hazardous position to be intolerant and hateful to other people.
Yeah.
And I think, that's a subtle message to the people who have a tendency to hate, to keep pushing their own ideas on someone else's humanity.
Yeah.
And I think that's fundamentally wrong.
Well, yes. So you're right about that. But this group is not doing that.
No.
Right. So I would encourage you to speak to your legislators. I would encourage you to vote. I would encourage you to go to a group or a city council meeting and talk to the people who are legalizing it or making it legal to have conversion therapy. Because in this group, I'm so glad that you're here, where you're preaching to the choir, right? So you should have enough courage and enough strength to walk into a group or to a room where there may be more people opposed to you than who are for you, and be able to speak your truth and tell them how you feel, and be able to walk in that authority, as I said, to be able to teach them what it's like to be someone like you, to be in your shoes. That's the advice that I can give.
What in your background gave you that strength or that courage to be who you are and be confident and walk with purpose in that? Because I think it's tough to be a black man, and it's tough to be a gay black man. So how do you say, like, well, this is who I am, and I'm going to embrace it, and I'm going to take every moment that could be seen as a negative as an opportunity?
I had to lose my mind. And I mean that, I don't mean that, I had to lose the confines of what people thought I should be, what society thought I should be, how they thought I should act, what they expected of me. And the biggest thing is that I had to not give a damn about what people think about me. I really don't care what you think about me. I don't. And which is very interesting for me, being engaged with someone who's younger. He's very, everything that happens in the news or everything that someone writes about me or every time, he's like, oh my gosh, they said this about you and this. And I'm like, Tim, calm down. It's not that, this too shall pass.
Right. Do you love me? Then we're fine.
We're fine.
Yeah.
I don't, it doesn't bother me. That stuff doesn't bother me. And I think that actually I got that because I'm a gay black man. Because I didn't fit in a number of different places. Because I grew up in the South where people would openly call me the N-word, or people would call me the F-word, or people expected, me to act and be a certain way because I was a gay man, or where I had to hide being a gay man. So I think that's, I had to literally lose, I say lose my mind, but I had to literally lose the constraints of what society thought was the appropriate way for me to be. And I had to be the person that I wanted to be and walk in my own truth. And once you do that, it is so empowering. Coming out had a lot to do with it. After I came out, I was like, I'm good. As long as my mom was okay with it, I'm like, I'm fine. I don't really care what you think about me after that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Another question.
Hello, my name's Larry. This glorious building and some of the programs it puts on are going to be going away. What can the news business personalities do to keep what this place represents going, revitalized?
You had a good idea backstage. I'm all for it.
What about Atlanta?
Yeah.
Oh, I said we have a lot of space in the CNN Center in Atlanta because a lot of our operation has moved to New York City. So we should take all the stuff in the Newseum and put it into the CNN
Temporary
Center in
exit,
Atlanta.
yeah.
And I think it would be great. I mean, it's already like a
We have a lot of Ted
it's a
Turner stuff, so
museum
it's
for
perfect.
CNN. I mean,
Yeah.
why not just there's right? There's a lot of space there, and then people come through. We still do tours there. And so and people come from all over the world to see the CNN tour. So I would say,
Yeah, we'll talk.
email Jeff Zucker. Don't tell him I said that. I didn't realize I was. Oh
Yeah,
my
you're
gosh,
real. Yeah,
that's me.
this is a great picture of you, by the
I
way.
had
This is
no
like
idea.
a superhero pose
That
of
was
you.
that was 15 pounds ago, though. That's okay. By Thanksgiving, I'll be back, and then by Christmas, I'll look like this again.
But do you? Let me just jump off of that.
No, but did I answer your question? Because I'm not sure if that's one answer, but I think that, listen, it's great to have a museum and have, everything in one room, but I think the Newseum is the country, right? And we hold it collectively inside of us, and it's up to us to sort of continue what the Newseum is doing and continue the right path as Americans. And so you do that at the ballot box, you do that who you tune in and watch every night. You do that with your money and your wallet. So, I think that, but I think as far as temporarily housing things, I would love to see it in Atlanta. Maybe I'll ask Jeff.
We'll add that to your list of things.
Hi. So as Mr. Galloway reminded us, you dedicated your book to bullied and marginalized youth, and Tyler Clementi specifically. I'm a 7th grade teacher, and the question that keeps me up at night is, how do I compete? Like, how do teachers and parents and community leaders, people like me, how do we compete with politicians and the news media on certain stations and popular culture that tells these kids every day that they're less than? And how do we find those spaces to tell them, you're okay, we're all okay, it's okay?
Oh, wow. Woo. Well, I hope that in some small way that I do that, but not in as big a way as you're doing it. I mean, that's your call. That's your calling. And I think that you have to do that as parents, and that's where it comes from. And as a society, I think we have to be able to teach people individually. I try to do that on my show every night, simply by just showing up and being present and being an out, gay, an out American who happens to be gay and black, right? But I don't really know how to answer that. I think and our teachers are so important. What you do is so important. I think much more important than what I do. But I don't know. I would like to talk to you, though, about what that's like. And with bullying and with social media, it's got to be crazy. Because I don't even go on social media like I used to. Like, I hate going on sometimes because it's so negative, right? Even for an adult, someone who is sort of, I would think, sort of a centered thinking person, mature person, I don't even like to go on there. I can't imagine what it's like for 7th graders. Jeez. Do 7th graders have phones?
They do. Yeah.
Are they on social media?
They are.
I would say not only are they on social media, I think there's a pretty heavy addiction. We are constantly catching our kids in class, checking to see what people have said about them. And it's horrifying sometimes.
Well, to jump off that point,
I'm going to do that story, so I'm going to talk to you in it before we leave.
Yeah,
Go on, sorry.
No, absolutely. I think that it's an interesting thing that we all have to go through, where we're trying to stay positive, we're trying to stay engaged, but at the same time, there are apps, there are platforms that are built to keep us getting an endorphin kick of positive or negative, that keep us tuning into these things that drag us down into the negative. So when you have to host a 2-hour show every weekday, how do you decide, oh, I'm going to give more airtime to that negative moment, or I'm going to keep taking us into this space that is actually news, but is maybe drawing us into a more negative headspace?
Well, that's a good question. Usually what I do, and if you watch my show, you'll know, the people who contribute to that toxic environment I don't have on. I mean, in the beginning, like, I will give you a chance until I can't give you any more chances, right? I'll say, okay, well, maybe they'll get it right next time, and then I'm done. So I don't allow room on my platform for alternative facts, or for apologists, or for people who come on,
or for people who just yell,
who just yell and who don't tell the truth, because no one gets anything out of it. And why? I wouldn't allow someone to come on to say, no, there's no way, Mrs. Jones, that you got that cancer from cigarettes. That doesn't happen. So then, why would you allow someone a platform who just comes on and lies when you know it is a lie? I mean, you know they're not telling the truth. So that's how I try to contribute to that environment. But as far as like young people, like I thought like, you know, maybe kids start getting phones in high school or junior maybe, but seventh
bad, yeah.
grade,
Oh,
you
yeah.
have a phone?
Yeah.
I can't imagine being, so there you go, I need to have some kids soon so I can figure all this out. But I can't imagine when I was in 7th grade and dealing with what I was dealing with and how, you know, the bullies and how mean I was.
Were you?
Right? Yeah, all kids are mean.
Okay.
Because you just don't know. And then looking
no,
back,
you're-
I'm like, God, I can't believe I did that. It was so mean. And you feel so bad. But when you're that, you're just showing off in front of your friends, right? And then all of that comes from wanting to be accepted. Right? So I can't imagine. And I don't know how you deal with that. Do you guys ban phones in classrooms?
At some schools, our school, we're fortunate enough to do that, but that's a new thing this year.
Yeah.
And what kids, even then, they come into the room and they're still hurt from something they
Right. They bring it into, even if you put your phones away or it's in your locker or they still bring it into the classroom.
Yeah.
And it's still in them.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. I don't know. That's way beyond my pay grade.
Thank
I don't
you.
know. You'd have to ask Sanjay Gupta that question.
But here, let me ask you this. If you had to have a conversation with your younger self, as you were going through some pretty dramatic things from your childhood, what would you say, technology out of the question, what would you say to your younger self that maybe that teacher can take with him to the classroom to say, Don Lemon came out the other side, what would you say?
Don't be so hard on yourself. Yeah. And the same thing I said earlier, I know it's easy for me to say it now, but don't worry about what people think of you. And I remember, when I was growing up, I had, I didn't have like we called it for African Americans, good hair. Yeah. You guys know what good hair is? Y'all know what good hair is? Yeah. I don't have good hair. I don't have a lot of it anymore at all. But, so I didn't have good hair. And then where I grew up in Louisiana, there was a lot of colorism among African Americans, right? If you were lighter than a brown paper bag, you're good. If you're darker, that whole thing that went on. And I had like a gap teeth and, had these big ears, right? And then it's funny because the year, it didn't happen in high school. I had braces, but like my freshman year of college, all of a sudden,
came together.
Everything started coming together, and I would look in the mirror and go, who is this guy, right? And it started coming together, and then the department stores in the town would ask me to like do ads for them and model for them. And then I would see people from my high school, and they would say, oh my gosh, Don Lemon, what happened to you? And I'd be like, I don't know. I don't know what happened to me. But inside, I was still like this gawky, scrawny kid who weighed 138 pounds and, had like, bad teeth and big eyes and all of that. So I would tell them it's good to be a late bloomer.
Yeah. You work on your personality.
Yeah, and you work on, it's good to be a late bloomer, but don't worry about being like, just be who you are. If you're a nerd, lean into it, right? If you're smart, good at math, lean into that. If you're a good speaker, lean into that. Honestly, if you're if you're gorgeous, lean into that, right?
Yeah.
Right, but don't just rely on that one thing. But yeah, it's okay to use your strong hand when you're, right? Just be a cool nerd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think no, we've got time. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jan Hamilton from Aspen, Colorado.
Can you answer his question?
She didn't say what kind of doctor she was.
Well, she's smart. She's got a doctor in front of her name.
I'm here in D.C. because I have a case at the federal court. The next step would be to the U.S. Supreme Court, and it is a conversion therapy case. We were thinking we were closeted and at the First Baptist Church in Aspen, we were arrested and told we had to be cured of loving each other. Oh, by the way, I'm an LSU Tiger, so I know what happened in your freshman year at LSU. You blossomed into a Lion King.
A tiger. How do you spell go?
So, the reason I'm standing
G-E-A-U-X. Sorry, go ahead,
Okay.
sorry.
I see.
Yeah.
Right. No, the question I have is how can I tell my story on your show? I want to be on your show. I want to free the young people that are committing suicide in Aspen, Colorado. They have all the money, all the possessions money can buy, But when they fall in love in junior high and they go home or they are bullied by classmates or a school counselor or church and commit suicide, we can't have that anymore in Aspen. Aspen is the #1 city in America for suicides in our gay and our young people, per capita of town its size. And so Nancy and I have taken it upon ourselves to bring that case all the way from county court to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Well, I know that John's got one of his producers here, so I'm sure there's a way
I have to, we'll run this by the producers, but I do want to do the story on the conversion therapy in New York, and if you fit into that, and if it fits into it, I would love to have you on. I can't promise you that you will fit into that, but seriously, I'm not just blowing smoke. I really do mean that. And so if you have some expertise and you can help me out on that subject, I'd love to have you on.
Thank you
if
so
we
much.
could save the life of one young person that would not commit suicide or be murdered, we think we've won the case.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
whatever we can do.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Say no more. I'm already with you.
Please.
Hi.
It'll be quick, I promise.
No, you're fine. But quick is good.
So, my mom always comes home and she makes me stop watching Netflix at 10 to make your show come on, or
Where's your mom? Is she here?
she's literally right there.
Oh, there's
and
Mom.
She was
I love you, Mom. Go, Mama.
And I already have my political science degree. I'm good. I learned, but she was too embarrassed to ask. But I was wondering if you would mind taking a selfie, or a hug, or just saying hi. She's right over there.
I see her. I see her.
Yeah.
Is that it? That's your question?
Yeah, my mom loves you.
Oh, okay.
We'll work it out. We'll work it out. We'll work it out.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you. That was sweet. That was very sweet. Hi, Mom. What's your name? Joan. Hey, Joan. I'm Don. Nice to meet you.
Go ahead.
Hi there.
Hi.
First of all, Don, you got a whole lot of Legion of New fans when you and Simone Sanders had that exchange over Omarosa leaving the White House. I just wanted to say thank you for that. That was amazing. On a more serious note, we were talking about Stonewall, and there seems to be actually two narratives about it. The one you mentioned earlier about Judy Garland being the spark for the revolt, and that seems to be coming from a generation of white men. And now we have another narrative that focuses on the transgender men and women, the people of color who were there, who were protesting the police as well. So, and it seems to be two competing narratives.
Oh, I don't think they're competing. That's interesting.
Well, the only reason why I say that
because you should go and visit our exhibit, because we tell the complete story.
The reason why I said competing is because, again, in this country where where we seem to be more divided and more conflicted, and even within the LGBT community, how do we bring our stories together as opposed to seeing two different stories as a source of conflict?
The answer is in your question.
Okay.
And so notice when I didn't say it was these, so I said one of the things. People were fed up. And I always pay homage to my transgender drag queens, as we call it. Can you say drag queens anymore?
They're two different
I love
things.
drag queens. Yeah.
They're actually two different
different
things.
No,
communities.
because you got to watch what you say now.
Two different
because
communities, so yeah.
I'm not sure. But
Two different
speaking
things.
of, one of my favorite new drag queen is, do you know Flame Monroe? She's a comedian. Oh, yes. I love her. I saw her on Tiffany Haddish's thing. Shit, they ready. So, and Flame does a great job of explaining some of this stuff. But they are. I don't think it's competing. I think we wanted to compete, but it's not. Listen, Judy Garland can be the spark for people who love Judy Garland. The black drag queens and transvestites and trans people who stood up to the cops also made it happen. They were the ones that actually did it. They all can be part of the history. They don't have to compete. It all can happen together. And so just because the drag queens were there, it doesn't negate Judy Garland. And just because Judy Garland was there, it doesn't negate the black trans people who were there. So there was a lot of stuff, but there was also people who were just frustrated. They were just mad of all different colors, and they were fed up with the police, and they were fed up with being treated as second, third, fourth class citizens. And so that's a narrative that we should get out there. Yes, the people who actually fought the police were those drag queens who were saying, no, honey, you're not treating me this way. But there was also this thing at the time that was happening in the country where it was a women's movement, it was a civil rights movement. There were a whole lot of factors that came together to create that moment. And so that's a story that we should be telling. I get your point. We could probably do a better job at it, but don't see it as two things that are separate, competing. They're together.
One last question. With somebody I spent the entire weekend with, too.
Hi, my name's Taylor Chandler, and I'm actually part of the Rise Up exhibit. I'm part of the welcoming video. 50 years ago, Stonewall may have happened, and the gay movement has certainly gone forward. But transgender women of color, and there's a dramatic difference between them and drag queens and transvestites,
Right.
they're still being murdered.
Right.
I'd like to recognize that Marissa Miller is here, the promoter and person that put together the National Trans Visibility March that's happening on September
Marissa,
20th.
where
Where's
are you?
Marissa? I can't see because of the
Can you
light.
stand, Marissa?
Hey,
Oh, my buddies are
I
here.
saw you earlier. There she is.
How did I miss you?
And my question to you is, in this day of media, especially social media, I go to Twitter to find my news. Whatever's trending on Twitter, that's where I find news. I don't have time to look at the television. But why are trans women of color that are being murdered not lead stories? Why do people, specifically white, cisgender men that are in positions of power, not caring that people like me that have a different color skin are being murdered?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if people don't care. I definitely think that it should be part of the news. And if you watch my show, you don't watch TV. I do stories on trans women.
I will watch you now.
Yeah, I do stories on trans women, and there were, remember, trans women were being murdered in Dallas recently, and I did a story. We had the police chief on a couple of nights. And if there are stories that come to the fore, I do them. But I'm not sure. Your stories are very important, and I am 100%, 1,000% behind the trans community. And I understand that your stories are undertold, right? There should be more of it. And I take that, and I will make sure that I tell more of your stories, or try
And I
to tell more of
encourage
your
you to
stories.
come back on September 28th and be a part of the march. This is a call to action, because in 2020, the way we're going to change things is
Yeah.
at the ballot box. And so this is not only a rally, this is a march that's going to go straight to the Capitol to make people realize that we are here, we are part of this country, and our rights, our protections, our ability to have health care is not an option by the majority. And so therefore, you know, it's not going to solve anything by killing us, and it's not going to solve anything by conversion therapy or any of these other things. But the thing that frustrates me so much is, even though the gay movement has gone so much further forward, it was on the blood of Black transgender women that took place. And it needs to change. And I applaud the Newseum for doing the Rise Up exhibit and for making it a story about all of us. But at the same time, it could be more Black.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Well, I think, thank you. And the young man who asked me about, the young man from Africa, what was his name? Jusu, sorry, sorry for butchering your name, who said, so no one can tell your story like you can. You're the authority of telling your story. So I need people, and we need people like you who are willing to help us tell your story. I'm not a white cisgender man, but I am willing, and I have a platform to tell your story, and I try to do it as often as possible. I could do it more. So I am here, and I'm open to listening to you and to putting more stories on the air. I receive what you said, and I thank you for saying it. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
That's it?
That's it. I know you're used to 2-hour conversations and 2-hour shows. This is only an hour, so thank you so much for being here.
She's
I'm done.
cutting me off to
and
go to the
we're
commercial
gonna go
break.
right to commercial break.
She's like, we got to go to the break.
No, I want to say thank you to our audience for their fantastic questions as well. For those of you who are joining us after, you can take the exit down here and take the glass elevators up. And for those of you who are just exiting the building, it's up the stairs. But thank you again, Don.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.